Nothing says marital doom like truth or dare with Mira and tequila. I should have known the night was going to hell when my wife Claire suggested we spice things up at her friend's birthday party. In my experience, when a 34-year-old fitness instructor starts talking about spicing things up, someone's about to get burned, and it's usually the guy who makes furniture for a living. Mira's living room looked like a Pinterest board exploded. Candles everywhere, those ridiculous throw pillows that cost more than my power tools, and enough wine to float a yacht. The usual suspects were there. Jenna with her fake laugh, Marcus, who never met a conversation he couldn't make about cryptocurrency, and some new faces I didn't recognize, including one particular face that kept catching Claire's attention. "Gavin, you remember Elias from the gym, right?" Claire's voice had that sing-song quality she used when she was lying. I'd been married to her for 8 years. I knew all her tells. Elias Greer stood about 6'2", had the kind of tan that screamed, "I spend more on skincare than most people spend on rent," and wore a shirt that was probably worth more than my truck payment. He had that new money cockiness that made my teeth itch. "The spin instructor," I said, shaking his hand. His grip was firm in that trying too hard way. "Claire mentions you a lot. All good things, I hope." His smile was practiced, the kind they teach in sales seminars. "Oh, absolutely. She says you really know how to make her sweat." Claire shot me a look that could have stripped paint. I smiled back innocently and grabbed another beer. The party meandered through the usual small talk. Who was renovating what? Which restaurants were worth the wait? The latest drama at the gym. I found myself studying the group dynamics like I was watching a nature documentary. Claire kept gravitating toward Elias, laughing a little too hard at his jokes, touching his arm when she talked. Classic mating display behavior. Then Mira, 3 drinks deep and riding high on birthday attention, suggested the game that would blow up my marriage. "Truth or dare," she announced, clapping her hands like a demented seal. "Come on, we're all adults here. What's the worst that could happen?" Famous last words. We arranged ourselves in a circle on Mira's expensive rug. I ended up between Marcus and Jenna, directly across from Claire and Elias. The universe has a sick sense of humor. The first few rounds were tame. Marcus had to confess his most embarrassing moment, apparently involving a client meeting and explosive diarrhea. Jenna chose dare and had to text her ex. Standard party game stuff. Then it was Claire's turn. "Truth," she said, which should have been my first warning. Claire always chose dare. She lived for the attention, the drama. Truth meant she had something to hide. Mira grinned like a shark scenting blood. "If you could trade lives with anyone here for a week, who would it be and why?" I expected her to say something diplomatic, maybe compliment Mira's interior design skills or Jenna's yoga flexibility. Instead, Claire looked directly at Elias. "I'd trade with whoever gets to wake up next to Elias every morning," she said. "I bet they never have to wonder if they're appreciated." The room went dead quiet. You could have heard a pin drop, if pins made the sound of marriages imploding. I felt every eye in the circle turn to me. The smart play would have been to laugh it off, make a joke about how I'd trade with anyone who didn't have to listen to Claire's morning affirmations. Instead, I heard myself say, "Interesting choice. I'd trade with anyone married to someone who remembered their wedding vows." Claire's face went white, then red. "It's just a game, Gavin." "Right, just a game." I stood up, brushing imaginary dust off my jeans. Like our marriage, apparently. I walked out of that party with whatever dignity I had left, leaving behind a room full of people who'd just witnessed the opening shot of what would become the truth or dare war. The drive home was 20 minutes of Arctic silence. Claire stared out the passenger window, like the LA suburbs held the secrets of the universe. I focused on the road and tried to ignore the way she kept checking her phone. "You embarrassed me," she finally said, as we pulled into our driveway. "I embarrassed you." I killed the engine and turned to look at her. "You just told a room full of people you'd rather be sleeping with your spin instructor, and I embarrassed you." "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like, Claire?" Because from where I was sitting, it looked like my wife publicly fantasizing about another man. She got out of the car without answering, slamming the door hard enough to wake the neighbors. I sat there for a minute, watching her storm up the front steps in her designer workout clothes, and realized I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Relief. For the first time in ages, I wasn't walking on eggshells, wondering what I'd done wrong, or how I could fix it. The pretense was over. The mask had slipped. Whatever we'd been pretending our marriage was, that charade had just ended in Mira's living room. I slept on the couch that night, but it was the most peaceful sleep I'd had in months. The next morning, I woke up to find Claire in the kitchen, making her usual kale smoothie and acting like nothing had happened. She was dressed for the gym in those expensive leggings that cost more than most people's car payments, her blonde hair pulled back in a perfect ponytail. "Morning," she said without looking up from her phone. "Morning." I started the coffee maker, a ritual that used to feel domestic and comfortable. Now, it felt like we were two strangers sharing a kitchen. Her phone buzzed. She smiled at whatever message she'd received, the kind of smile I hadn't seen directed at me in years. "Good news?" I asked. "Just Mira, apologizing for last night." But she was already typing back, her thumbs flying over the screen with practiced efficiency. I moved behind her to reach the coffee mugs, glancing at her phone screen out of habit. The message thread wasn't with Mira, it was with E, and the last message read, "Miss you already. Can't wait for tonight's private session." The coffee mug slipped from my hand and shattered on the tile floor. Claire spun around, clutching her phone to her chest. "Jesus, Gavin, be careful." "Sorry." I knelt down to pick up the ceramic pieces, my mind racing. Private session. Miss you already. The timeline was adding up in ways I didn't want to consider. "Who's E?" I asked, still crouched on the floor. "What?" "Your phone. You got a message from someone named E. Who is that?" Her face went through several expressions. Surprise, calculation, defiance. "It's Elena from the front desk at the gym. About my training schedule." I stood up, ceramic shards in my palm. "Elena misses you already?" She's just being friendly." "Right, friendly." I dumped the broken pieces in the trash. "Like Elias was being friendly last night?" "Don't start, Gavin." "Start what? Asking questions? Paying attention?" Apparently that's been my problem all along, not noticing things. Claire's jaw tightened. "You want to know what your problem is? You've checked out, completely. When's the last time you asked me about my day, my dreams, my feelings? When's the last time you gave me a straight answer about anything? I'm not doing this." She grabbed her gym bag and headed for the door. "I'm going to work out. Try not to break anything else while I'm gone." The front door slammed with enough force to rattle the windows. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by the debris of my marriage and a growing certainty that everything I thought I knew about my life was about to change. I spent the rest of the morning in my workshop, trying to lose myself in the familiar rhythm of measuring, cutting, sanding. I was building a custom dining table for a client in Beverly Hills, the kind of people who paid premium prices for artisanal craftsmanship and authentic character. The irony wasn't lost on me. I could create something beautiful and lasting with my hands, but apparently couldn't hold my marriage together. My phone buzzed around noon. A text from Claire. "Working late tonight. Don't wait up." I stared at the message for a long time, then opened my laptop and did something I'd never done before. I started looking for answers. Claire's social media had always been carefully curated. Inspirational quotes, workout photos, the occasional couple selfie that made us look happier than we'd been in years. But now I was looking with different eyes, paying attention to details I'd previously ignored. The comments on her photos, the likes from Elias_Greer_fitness, the way she'd started posting more frequently about self-care and knowing your worth and surrounding yourself with people who appreciate you. I clicked on Elias's profile. Shirtless gym selfies, motivational quotes about grinding and taking what you deserve, photos from expensive restaurants and weekend trips. Recent photos showed him with various women, but none of them were tagged or identified. Then I found the folder. It was tucked away in our shared cloud storage, in a subfolder labeled Workout Plans. Inside were dozens of photos I'd never seen before. Claire and Elias at restaurants I couldn't afford. Claire wearing lingerie I'd never seen. Selfies taken in hotel rooms and cars and places that definitely weren't our house. The timestamps went back 4 months. 4 months of lies. 4 months of working late and girls' nights and extra training sessions. 4 months of me wondering what I'd done wrong while my wife was building a whole secret life with her spin instructor. I sat back in my chair, staring at the evidence of my wife's betrayal, and felt something cold and calculating settle in my chest. The hurt was there, sure, the anger, the humiliation, but underneath it all was something else, clarity. For months, I'd been playing defense, trying to figure out how to save a marriage that was already over. I'd been the good husband, the understanding partner, the guy who didn't ask too many questions because he was afraid of the answers. That guy was done. Claire wanted to play games? Fine. But she'd picked the wrong opponent. I might just be a furniture maker from the suburbs, but I'd learned a few things about patience, precision, and the satisfaction of a job well done. Time to show my wife what happens when you dare the wrong man. I've never considered myself detective material, but Google Calendar is a hell of a snitch. Over the next few days, I started paying attention to patterns I'd been blind to for months. Claire's spin classes that ran until 10 p.m. Her girls' nights that happened every Tuesday and Thursday. The way she'd started showering immediately after coming home, claiming she was too sweaty to even kiss me hello. The pieces were falling into place with the kind of precision I usually reserved for dovetail joints. Tuesday night, I decided to conduct my own private investigation. Claire left at 7 for what she claimed was a high-intensity interval class followed by core work. I gave her a 20-minute head start, then drove to the gym. Her car wasn't in the parking lot. I sat in my truck for an hour, watching people come and go, checking every blonde woman who walked through those glass doors. No Claire. At 8:30, I drove to the Starbucks where she sometimes met friends. Not there either. On a hunch, I headed toward the trendy part of West Hollywood, where Elias had posted several Instagram photos. I found Claire's BMW parked outside a wine bar called Vintage, the kind of place that charged $20 for a glass of whatever the sommelier was pushing that week. Through the window, I could see them at a corner table. Claire was wearing the black dress she'd claimed was too fancy for anywhere we ever go. Elias had his hand on her thigh. They were leaning into each other like teenagers, completely absorbed in their own little world. I took photos. Not because I was planning to use them in court. California's a no-fault state, and besides, I had bigger plans brewing, but because I needed evidence of just how careless they'd become. How arrogant. They thought I was stupid. That was their first mistake. I was back home by 10, pretending to watch TV when Claire walked in at 10:45. Her hair slightly messed up and her lipstick refreshed. "How was class?" I asked without looking away from the screen. "Brutal. Elias really pushed us tonight." She kicked off her heels, the same heels she'd worn to the wine bar. "I'm going to shower." "Good idea. You smell like wine." She froze halfway to the stairs. "What?" "Wine. And cologne. Expensive cologne." I finally looked at her, letting her see that I knew. Must be some new aromatherapy thing at the gym. For a second, her mask slipped completely. I saw guilt, fear, and something else, calculation. She was trying to figure out how much I knew and how much she could still get away with. "The girl next to me spilled her protein shake," she said finally. "It had wine extract in it, some new recovery blend." "Right, wine extract." I nodded like I believed her. "That explains the smell. And the fact that you weren't at the gym tonight." The color drained from her face. "What are you talking about? I drove by around 8. Thought I'd surprise you, maybe take you out for a late dinner. But your car wasn't there." I stood up, moving slowly, deliberately. "Where were you, Claire?" She lifted her chin, switching from defensive to defiant. "I don't have to account for every minute of my day to you. Actually, you do. It's called marriage. Remember that thing we did 8 years ago? The vows, the promises? Don't lecture me about promises." Her voice was getting louder, more shrill. "You've been emotionally absent for months. When's the last time you planned a date? Bought me flowers? Made me feel like I was more than just another piece of furniture in this house? When's the last time you gave me a reason to?" The words hung in the air between us like a challenge. Claire's face cycled through several emotions before settling on cold fury. "I want a separation," she said. "I want a lot of things. Doesn't mean I'm going to get them. I'm serious, Gavin. This isn't working. We're not working." I looked at her standing there in her expensive dress and designer shoes, fresh from her date with another man, demanding that I make it easy for her. The old me would have tried to negotiate, to find some middle ground, to save what was left of our marriage. The new me smiled. "You're right," I said. "We're not working. So here's what's going to happen. You want out? Leave. But don't expect me to make it convenient for you." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means if you want a divorce, you can file for it. If you want to move out, you can pack your own bags. If you want to be with Elias, you can stop pretending this is about my shortcomings and just go." Her face went white. "I don't know what you think you know. I know about the wine bar. I know about the hotel receipts in your purse. I know about the photos in our cloud storage that you thought I'd never find." I pulled out my phone and showed her one of her own selfies, the one where she was wearing lingerie I'd never seen, taken in a room I'd never been in. "I know about all of it, Claire." She stared at the phone screen like it was a snake. "You went through my private files?" "Our shared files, on our joint account, that we both pay for." I put the phone away. "Nothing private about it." "You had no right. I had every right. I'm your husband. Or at least I was until you decided to audition for a replacement." Claire's composure finally cracked completely. "Fine. Yes, I'm seeing Elias. Yes, I care about him. Yes, he makes me feel things you haven't made me feel in years. Are you happy now?" "Ik en keneld." I walked toward the stairs, then paused. One more thing. That separation you want? You can have it. But you're the one who's leaving. This is my house, my workshop, my life. You want to play house with the spin instructor? You can do it somewhere else. You can't kick me out. I have rights. You have the right to file for divorce and let the lawyers sort it out. You have the right to explain to a judge why you think adultery entitles you to half of everything I've built. You have the right to see how that works out for you. I left her standing in the living room and went upstairs to our bedroom. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. I woke up to an empty house and a note on the kitchen counter. Gone to think. Don't contact me. Like I was the one who'd been doing the chasing. I made coffee, read the news, and started planning my next move. Claire thought she held all the cards because she'd been the one to step out, the one to make demands, the one to control the narrative. She was about to learn that the quiet guy who builds furniture and doesn't make waves can be the most dangerous opponent of all. My phone rang around noon. The caller ID showed the name of a law firm I didn't recognize. Mr. Rourke? This is Jennifer Walsh from Walsh, Martinez & Associates. I'm calling on behalf of your wife, Claire Rourke. She's asked me to inform you that she'll be filing a restraining order against you this afternoon. The words hit me like a physical blow. A restraining order? For what? Mrs. Rourke claims you've been stalking her, going through her personal belongings, and making threatening statements. She also has photographic evidence of bruising that she says occurred during a physical altercation. My mind reeled. That's insane. I never laid a hand on her. Mr. Rourke, I'd strongly advise you to retain legal counsel immediately. The hearing is scheduled for tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. The line went dead. I sat in my kitchen, staring at the phone, trying to process what had just happened. Bruising? Physical altercation? I'd never even raised my voice to Claire until last night, let alone hurt her. Then it hit me. The spin class. The brutal workout where Elias really pushed us. She'd gotten hurt during her workout and was using it as evidence that I'd abused her. My wife wasn't just cheating on me. She was trying to destroy me. I called my buddy Vince, an ex-cop who now worked security at a downtown club. If anyone would know how to handle this situation, it was him. Jesus, Gav, she's really going nuclear on you. Vince had listened to the whole story without interrupting, which was unusual for him. You got any proof of the affair? Photos, timestamps, hotel receipts, the works. Good. Bring everything. We're going to see my lawyer friend, and then we're going to war. I don't want to fight dirty, Vince. Brother, she already threw the first punch. And it was a sucker punch while you weren't looking. Time to show her what happens when you pick a fight with someone who has nothing left to lose. As I gathered the evidence of my wife's betrayal, I realized Vince was right. I'd been playing by rules that Claire had abandoned months ago. I'd been trying to save a marriage while she'd been planning my destruction. That was about to change. The gloves were coming off. Turns out, the justice system loves a weepy blonde with a yoga mat and a sob story about her abusive husband. Judge Morrison took one look at Claire's carefully applied makeup, covering what I was sure were spin class bruises, and granted a temporary restraining order, faster than you could say due process. I sat in that courtroom, listening to my wife's lawyer paint me as a stalker and a threat, watching Claire dab her eyes with tissues, while describing how afraid she was of me. The same woman who'd been sneaking around with her personal trainer for 4 months was now playing the victim so convincingly that even I almost believed her. Mr. Rourke, Judge Morrison said, peering at me over his glasses, you are to have no contact with your wife, directly or indirectly. You may not go within 500 feet of her residence, workplace, or gym. Do you understand? I understand, Your Honor. What I understood was that I'd been outmaneuvered by a woman I'd underestimated for 8 years. Walking out of that courthouse, I felt something I hadn't experienced since high school, the burning humiliation of being publicly beaten by someone I'd trusted. But underneath the humiliation was something else, something cold and calculating that I recognized from the workshop when I was planning a particularly complex build. Claire wanted to play chess? Fine. But she'd just made the classic mistake of assuming her opponent didn't know the game. Vince was waiting for me outside, leaning against his motorcycle like some kind of leather-clad guardian angel. How'd it go? About as well as a root canal performed with a chainsaw. I filled him in on the details as we walked to his bike. So she's got you boxed in legally, Vince said, lighting a cigarette. Can't contact her, can't go to her work, can't even drive by the gym. Smart move. Yeah, brilliant. So what now? Vince grinned, the kind of expression that had probably made suspects confess back when he was wearing a badge. Now we get creative. She wants to play dirty? Let's show her what dirty looks like. I'm not going to do anything illegal, Vince. Who said anything about illegal? There's a whole world of perfectly legal ways to make someone's life complicated, especially when they've been stupid enough to leave a trail of evidence all over social media. That afternoon, Vince introduced me to the concept of social engineering. Turns out, when people are conducting an affair, they get sloppy with their digital security. Password resets sent to shared email accounts, location services left on, photos automatically backed up to cloud storage they forgot they were sharing. Claire and Elias had been documenting their relationship like they were planning to write a book about it. Hotel check-ins on Instagram, couples photos at restaurants, even a few shots that were definitely not safe for work, stored in what they thought was a private folder. Here's what we're going to do, Vince explained, pulling up Claire's social media on his laptop. We're not going to hack anything. We're not going to steal anything. We're just going to make sure the right people see information that's already public. What do you mean? I mean, your wife's been posting photos of her affair all over the internet. She's just been careful about who can see them. But privacy settings are tricky things. Sometimes they glitch. Sometimes things get shared with the wrong groups by accident. I watched as Vince navigated through Claire's accounts with the skill of someone who'd spent years tracking down digital evidence. This is her gym's private Facebook group, he said, pointing to the screen. Very exclusive. Members only. They share workout tips, nutrition advice, gossip about the trainers. Okay. And this, he clicked to another window, is the photo album she thought was private. The one with all the pictures of her and Elias playing house. I stared at the screen. There were dozens of photos I hadn't seen before. Claire and Elias at expensive restaurants. Claire wearing jewelry I'd never bought her. The two of them in what was clearly a hotel room. And Claire wasn't wearing much. Jesus, I muttered. Yeah, your wife's been busy. Now, hypothetically speaking, if someone were to accidentally share this album with the gym's Facebook group, well, that would be a shame. All those people Claire works out with, seeing exactly what kind of personal training she's been getting, that's perfectly legal. It's her own social media account, her own photos, her own stupid mistakes with privacy settings. Vince cracked his knuckles. The question is, how badly do you want to win this war she started? I thought about sitting in that courtroom, watching Claire lie under oath. I thought about the months of gaslighting, the wine extract excuse, the way she'd looked at me like I was stupid for believing her obvious lies. Do it. Vince's fingers flew over the keyboard. Within minutes, Claire's private photo album was shared with the gym's Facebook group, complete with a caption that read, "So proud of my relationship with my amazing trainer, #blessed in love, #private sessions, #worth it." How long before people see it? I asked. Oh, they're already seeing it. Vince refreshed the page. The post had 3 comments already, and it had been live for less than 2 minutes. Your wife's about to have a very interesting day. My phone started ringing 20 minutes later. The caller ID showed Mira's name. Gavin? Oh my God, what is happening? Claire's photos are all over Facebook, and people are going crazy, and she's not answering her phone. And, slow down, Mira. What photos? The ones of her and Elias. They're in the gym group, and everyone's seen them. And, oh my God, some of them are really explicit, and the gym owner is freaking out because Elias is married, and I let Mira ramble for a few more seconds, then cut her off. I'm sure it's just some kind of technical glitch. You know how social media can be. A glitch? Gavin, there are like 50 photos of your wife having an affair with her trainer. 50? Wow, that does sound like a lot. I'm sure Claire will get it sorted out. I hung up and looked at Vince. Elias is married. Oh yeah, wife's name is Sandra. 2 kids. She's a nurse at Cedars-Sinai. Vince pulled up another Facebook profile. Lovely family. I'm sure she'll be very interested to see what her husband's been up to during his overtime shifts. My phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. Is this Gavin Rourke? This is Sandra Greer. I think we need to talk. 2 hours later, I was sitting in a coffee shop in Beverly Hills across from a tired-looking woman in scrubs who had just gotten off a 12-hour shift at the hospital. Sandra Greer was nothing like I'd expected. Where Claire was all polished surfaces and carefully maintained appearances, Sandra looked like someone who dealt with real problems and didn't have time for bullshit. I knew something was going on, she said, stirring her coffee with mechanical precision. The late nights, the new clothes, the way he'd get defensive when I asked about work. But seeing those photos, I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Are you? Because from what I can tell, you're the one who posted them. I met her eyes. Your husband and my wife decided to blow up 2 marriages. I just made sure everyone knew about it. Sandra nodded slowly. Fair enough. So what now? Now we make sure they face consequences for what they've done. What did you have in mind? I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos I'd taken of Claire and Elias at the wine bar. I've been documenting their affair for weeks. Hotel receipts, restaurant bills, photos, text messages, everything. I want copies of all of it. Done. And Sandra? There's something else you should know. Claire filed a restraining order against me yesterday. Claimed I was abusing her. Used bruises she got from working out as evidence. Sandra's expression hardened. That bitch. Yeah. So if you're planning to divorce Elias, you might want to move fast, before he tries to claim you're the abusive one. Oh, I'm not divorcing him. Sandra smiled for the first time since we'd sat down. I'm going to destroy him. His reputation, his career, his precious little fantasy life with your wife. I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man he is. How? Leave that to me. I work in a hospital, remember? I know things about public humiliation that would make your head spin. She stood up, gathering her purse. But first, I think we should pay a visit to the gym, together. I'd love to meet my husband's boss and have a little chat about appropriate professional boundaries. As I watched Sandra walk away, I realized that Claire and Elias had made a crucial miscalculation. They'd assumed that the people they were betraying would just quietly accept it, maybe cry a little, maybe beg for another chance. They'd never considered the possibility that their victims might fight back. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is harassment, and I'm calling my lawyer. I smiled and typed back. Good luck with that. Say hi to Elias for me. Oh wait, you can't. He's probably busy explaining those photos to his wife. The war was just getting started. The gym where Claire and Elias conducted their little romance was called Elevation Fitness, one of those boutique places where people paid $200 a month to sweat in designer workout clothes. I'd driven past it 100 times but never been inside. Thanks to the restraining order, I still couldn't go within 500 feet of the place. But Sandra could. The owner's name is Patricia Hendricks, Sandra explained as we sat in her car across the street from the gym. I looked her up. She's built this whole brand around family values and integrity and fitness. Has a husband, 2 teenage daughters. The kind of woman who would not appreciate learning that one of her married trainers has been screwing a client in what appears to be every hotel room in West LA. Lole, you sure you want to do this? It's going to get ugly. Lole. And Thumbgirl laughed, but there wasn't any humor in it. Gavin, I just spent my morning shift explaining to a 6-year-old why daddy wasn't coming home anymore. Ugly doesn't begin to cover what I'm feeling right now. I watched her walk into the gym, shoulders squared, moving with the kind of purpose that made me glad I wasn't on the receiving end of whatever she had planned. My phone rang. Vince, you see the gym's Facebook page lately? He asked. No, why? Check it out. Your wife's little photo dump has gone viral in the fitness community. Someone shared it to a bunch of other gym groups, and now there are like 300 comments. Most of them are not what you'd call supportive. I pulled up the page on my phone. Vince wasn't kidding. The comment thread looked like a digital lynch mob. This is disgusting. What kind of trainer preys on married clients? I know this woman. She's been bragging about her special sessions for months. Both of them should be banned from every gym in the city. Someone should send this to the husband. He deserves to know. Already did. Poor guy. I scrolled through dozens of similar comments, watching my wife's reputation get shredded in real time by people who'd never met her but had strong opinions about adultery and professional ethics. Then I saw a comment that made me laugh out loud. Update. Tokens. Elias Greer's wife just walked into Elevation Fitness with a folder full of photos and asked to speak to the owner. This is better than reality TV. Sandra emerged from the gym 20 minutes later, looking satisfied in a way that made me nervous for anyone who'd crossed her recently. How'd it go? I asked as she got back in the car. Patricia was very interested in the photos, especially the ones taken in the gym's private training rooms after hours. Apparently, using company facilities for personal relationships is grounds for immediate termination. Elias got fired? Elias got fired, banned from the premises, and Patricia is considering legal action for breach of contract and misuse of facilities. Sandra started the car. She also asked me to thank you for bringing this to her attention. Seems like Claire wasn't Elias's first married client. There were others? 3 that Patricia knows about. Your wife was just the most recent, and the most careless about documenting it. As we drove away from the gym, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months, the satisfaction of a plan coming together. Claire and Elias had built their relationship on lies and betrayal, assuming they were smarter than everyone around them. Now they were learning what happened when their victims started comparing notes. "What's next?" Sandra asked. "Now we go public." That evening, I did something I'd never done before. I created a social media account specifically for revenge. Not under my real name, obviously. I wasn't stupid. But I had a story to tell, and thanks to Claire's own documentation, I had the photos to back it up. The post was simple. My wife spent 4 months telling me she was working late, going to extra spin classes, and having girls' nights. Turns out she was having an affair with her married personal trainer and documenting the whole thing on social media. She filed a false restraining order against me when I found out, claiming I was abusive. These are her own photos from her own accounts. You be the judge of who the real victim is here. I attached a carefully curated selection of Claire's photos. Nothing too explicit, but enough to tell the story. Claire and Elias at expensive restaurants while I was home eating leftover pizza. Claire wearing jewelry and clothes I'd never seen while claiming we couldn't afford a vacation. The two of them looking blissfully happy while she was telling me our marriage was my fault. I posted it to Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, and every local community group I could find. Then I sat back and watched the internet do what the internet does best: judge strangers with extreme prejudice. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within an hour, the post had been shared dozens of times. Within 2 hours, someone had identified Claire and Elias from the photos and posted their real names. By